Okay, welcome to stuff that needs to be changed in the next reprint. I discussed a lot of points, and point 26 is to gate off Istra upgrades. So every chapter you should allow one upgrade from a given set. Otherwise you get power creep. And also for less experienced players, you should provide them with a set of alternatives to give more guidance while avoiding freedom. Now that is medium hanging fruit. Vendor dynamics should be taken care of. Cannot be done in the current time frame, but I expect in the next year. It should be organized by not by town but by chapter. You don't want God armor to stare in your face when you are still level 1. Currently the recipes are in an unordered fashion, and I really have no business with all these end game weapons. That needs a card pass that only drops from end game enemies. Sort the bloody items by level. There are also unstarred items, Wolf Cloak for example. These should be listed first, followed by section 2. Anything that requires mining or for example and does not require a 3-star loot drops. The vendor stock should be card based, not in a book. The craftable equipment is laid out per city in advance before your first move into the TIG world. It would be better if the craftable equipment per city were in the form of cards instead, that you unlock after a chapter boss battle or after a narrative event. To put it another way, there is no point in being told that you can craft this godly uber armor of the heavens if you need to defeat a rare endgame enemies for it. There is no point. So until you reach that point, the first 299 hours, it shouldn't be staring in my face. So rare drops, loot dynamics. I want more copies of each enemy card, where one of those copies. So there are now 2 Timberwolf cards in the entire box, but I want more of those. And one of those copies offers some nice rare loot. This would add a surprise element. Just like level 5 Ni no Kuni kind Fantasy Life game does. So say a 1 in a 4 chance to find a midnight hydrangeia when defeating a brigand marauder or whatever. So it's cheap to implement too. Just print out more cards, and you already have the imagery for the rare loot. It's already on the other cards. Now you have about 140 different enemies, so add 2 times 140 is 300 cards, would easily fit. Even sleeves, I have plenty of space in box too. So I would pay for such a pack without a second thought. Then there is the dead minimap. TIG has no in-game NPCs, no barber, no apothecary, no priest, no healer. There are inns, but with invisible shopkeepers, no graveyard, no kids. The cities are effectively ghost towns. Port cities have no ships that moor or sail off, though it's mentioned in passing by in chapter 3, book 1. People in reaction rarely bother to set up mini-maps even, so they make it pointless, and especially the green node minimaps are kind of dead, devoid of NPCs. There's no meaningful topology, as already said. So make these evolving districts, tie them to field events. Then signaling side quests. It would be better to set requirements in advance for each side quest. To require some require gold, some require a spare speaking stone, and some give rewards that take up space. To not signal means that each player will have to read ahead to see if at all the quest is possible or attainable. Especially since only one can be active at any time. So add signals. And yeah, their nodes have underdeveloped atmospheric location synonyms, as in video games, where by walking around you see a pop-up message like discovered John's farm. not to mention Skyrim. TIG is riddled with such scenes, but only in the quest book, under side quests. Once completed, it's as if they have never existed. So, for example, Trovin's Farm is node 73, Cliffside Path is node 93, Northern Woods is node 17, and so on. At the very least, it would be cool if there were a quest to map out the entire list of the north with all the synonym names, and similarly for the center and south, rewarding with some speaking stone by the quest giver, or more thematically a permanent +1 attack bonus on any encounter on such a completed map. Diablo 3 had such map-making achievements, to just mention a single game. It deserves a little bit more love, these location synonyms. I hope that's clear. The economy dynamics, so it's bad that there is an infinite supply of timber wolves, glacier worms and such. As an alternative would be to a tick box where you check off each enemy defeated and setting a max to each enemy for the chapter. The last tick box should state updated by sell price, and the maps and the towns should only need to state whether or not they would buy or sell that reward. The price is on the sheet. So obviously, new chapter means that you start with a blank slate, and new economy dynamics. For example, metal fragments are abundant in chapter 1, but pretty rare in chapter 2. So the price should rise if you sell metal fragments. Now, when you fill the current checkbox for an enemy type, it won't spawn anymore when dissolving a skull event that would generate it. So it resolves as normal, except the enemy has gone extinct. So not set up. Next, chapter enemies will roam the continent regardless of what happened in a previous chapter, otherwise players would have problems getting certain drops. Now that is finally the rare metal dynamics. So the first print of TIG makes no distinction between iron or diamond mining. As long as you set out to travel, there is no difference. And ore should be separated into tiers and be gated. Mining iron in chapter 2, but no mining diamonds in chapter 2, and mining diamonds is only in chapter 4. The field event dynamics are independent of the game state. That's point 34. It already was an afterthought. Feels tactile. Right now everything from a field event can happen at any time, independent of card pair and independent of world state, and that is far too static. Field events should be gated per chapter or per side quest. For example, side quest instructs player to add a field event such and such on the field deck. You would have a growing event range that feels more alive at little cost of production. Then the final point, point 35, is the in costs. In costs are static regardless of world state. Too expensive in chapter 1 and 2, and too cheap in chapter 3 and 4. So it's an easy mod to make them more dynamic. Vragos in, say, is 5 times chapter, for example, for the cost to spend the night. Simple change to divide the in cost by 4, then multiply by chapter, and the cards are in. Then the swapping costs, 2 AP for swapping agency is too much. Doesn't take into effect the bonus cards that trigger. You want them to trigger. Should be 1 AP for both cases. Proposed death and respawn reprint ruling of always adding 5 weakened chips is overreacting and worst of all too static. I already explained that. Should be per guard level, and the gate Istra upgrades and quests, it's already discussed. Towns should have a healer, especially big towns like Silni, to get rid of poison, for example. Then the teleporting was already discussed. Banking, lookups, signposting, rare elements, the nodes where you can mine gold, crystal, silver are all known beforehand. Okay, so that's all. I hope you like that, and you can discuss with SKJ or not. I really don't care at this point. I'll just print out my version, the sheet that I provide, and play according to that. And hope for the best. Okay, have a nice day. Bye.